Welcome to another edition of Jazz Smack Post Game. The Jazz played their third game of the Salt Lake City Summer League tonight, and third and final game, I should say. So they won the game. They played without Ace Bailey. They played without Bryce Sensabaugh, but they still managed to win the game. Let's talk about it and take a look at some video clips.
A little Jamal Murray, like.
Yep, he's playing like he's been there before, and you've just seen that poise.
So much of my comments after the last game were about Isaiah Collier and his lack of passing the ball and the stupid mistakes he continued to make, just driving indiscriminately into the lane and running into multiple defenders and turning the ball over. Now, to Isaiah's credit, I think he reflected on his performance. He reflected on himself being benched at the end of that second Summer League game, and he corrected much of that. I mean, he played much more under control. He played to try and get his teammates involved more so than just trying to get himself into the paint and into the basket. And things went much smoother this game than they did in that previous game. So I would say that Isaiah played a much better game in this particular game. I mean, we just showed you that pass where he did get into the paint, but he pitched it out to the wing player for the three, and that was a nice play. That's more aligned what he needs to do, but when he does drive the paint, he just needs to be, more selective. Just make sure there's an opening for him to get into the paint rather than just driving into defenders that, where he just doesn't have anywhere to go with the ball. So thankfully, because I have high hopes for him still. He needs to learn to shoot, but I have high hopes for him that he can be a contributor and be a ball mover and set up his teammates and be an effective point guard at some point. The shooting has to come along at some point. It does. I mean, he had one of the first shots he took tonight was like a 13, 14 footer in the paint, and he just completely clanked it. I mean, it wasn't even close. He's got to be able to make those shots at a higher rate. And tonight he went 3 for 11 from the field overall. I mean, there was one shot in the second half where it was like he was like on a semi-fast break, so he chose to pull up and shoot the three. He was open to shoot it, but there were absolutely no rebounders. There was nothing, and he decided, well, I'm going to stop and I'm going to shoot the three. He made that shot, but let's face it, that is a low percentage shot for Isaiah Collier at this point. I mean, him shooting the ball in that situation with no rebounding presence whatsoever, I think there are better offensive opportunities for the Jazz than that one. And like I said, I think even though that shot went in, I think that was a poor decision to shoot that shot in that situation. Yes, he made it, but I think he just needs to use some better judgment on the offensive end. I think that would help him greatly. I know that he can defend if he puts his mind to it. He certainly has the body and the quickness and the physicality and, the makeup to do that. But the decision-making on the offensive end needs to improve so that he doesn't have these games where there's just complete lapses like that last game. He can't do that again. And obviously, and then we get to the shooting portion of it where he must improve the shooting. Like, it's not right. It's very flawed at this point. So we'll see what happens. He's obviously not going to correct that in this summer league, and we'll see what happens after summer league before fall camp starts, what progress he makes there, because that has to be his main focus. 100% shooting has to be his main focus of what to improve before coming into fall camp. And that's not a lot of time. It's not a lot of time to, I mean, shooting is one of those things, for the most part, it takes a ton of repetitions over a significant period of time and not just a couple of months. But in this case, he's going to have a couple of months. Let's see what he does with it. Let's see if he makes any improvements. So we'll see. But anyway, so that was Isaiah. The other aspect of this, there was another clip that I am going to show you now that I thought was a good play, and this one is by Walter Clayton Jr. Let's call him Walt. This one's by Walt, where he uses his ability to be a bit shifty and get by people by changing speeds, a bit shifty with his footwork, changing speeds. He gets into the paint, and then he's able to pitch it out for a perimeter shot. So let's take a look at this and see what happens.
Was played at Iowa State. 2 early buckets here in the first quarter. Pass out. Springer. 3. Got it.
So that was a really nice play from Walt. He used his shiftiness to get by the big guy, and that's the big guy that gave him all sorts of problems in the second half, guarding guys on the perimeter. I mean, he picked Walt a couple times. He caused Walt to turn the ball over. I think it was 3 possessions in a row, and that's where the Jazz really got into trouble, and they started to relinquish that huge lead that they'd built up. So Walt in the first half got by that guy, and he blew by him, and then he got into the paint. He found the open guy on the perimeter and for the open shot, and that was a really nice play. And similar to what Collier did in that first clip, getting into the paint and then pitching it out to the open wing player. And that's beautiful. It's a lot better to take those 3-pointers when they're coming from inside out. First, the ball gets into the paint, and then it comes out for the 3-pointer. I much prefer those type of threes over the threes where the ball completely stays on the perimeter and then they shoot the 3. It's much better when the ball hits the paint first and then it's kicked out, in my opinion. So that was a nice play, and that was a nice play from Walt. Now, Walt, on the other hand, tonight, he ran into some serious turnover issues in that second half. Like there was a stretch there from Walt particularly that was really ugly. I mean, the Jazz had built up a nice lead, and then they just started turning the ball over. Yes, that guy that they put out in front from OKC, that guy is reasonably athletic. He's very long, and he caused a lot of problems. And this is something that Walt's going to have to address too. He can't be picked clean. If he's going to play the point guard, you just can't be picked clean like that. You've got to be able to take better care of the ball than that. So I want Walt to address and work on his ball handling in pressure situations. That certainly, just based on what we saw tonight, that has to be something that he improves upon moving forward. And like I said, I mean, this is the 3rd game of Summer League in his rookie season. I mean, he needs to get comfortable, and there's going to be things that he needs to address, that he needs to improve on. That was obviously one of those. That how they relinquished that lead in that second half, it was fairly ugly. I mean, that guy, he picked Walt, and there was a play with Cody where he picked Cody clean, and those type of things. If they happen once in a rare while, fine. But you just can't be picked clean like that, especially when you're a point guard. And Cody, he's playing what, the 2 or the 3 in this case tonight? Well, getting picked clean like that is not advantageous for the success of the Jazz. So you just can't do that. Those guys in particular, they can't allow that to happen. But anyway, those are my thoughts on that. Let's take a look actually at the box score and see how the team did as a whole, and just go through it. So Elijah Harkless played since Bryce Sensabaugh and Ace Bailey did not play tonight. They didn't suit up at all. They were just on the bench in street clothes. So Elijah got the start, and also Walt got the start as well. So they started in the backcourt, Isaiah, Walt, and then Kyle played center again, and Cody played small forward again, or power forward in this case, actually, or one of those. And then Elijah, who is simply a guard, he also played forward. So the lineup was makeshift somewhat, but they still got those times. And Elijah, I mean, let's be honest. Of all the players employed by the Utah Jazz at this moment in time, and this includes last season as well, Elijah Harkless is the best perimeter defender on the Jazz, currently employed by the Jazz. Even though he played in the G League last year, he was the best perimeter defender on the Utah Jazz while playing in the G League. He's very aggressive. He slides his feet fairly well. He's very handsy. He's the best perimeter defender on the team. And he kind of sets the tone on defense with that very aggressive perimeter defense. I think that is an asset, and like I said previously, I hope that Isaiah Collier kind of picks up on some of that a bit, because he has the physical tools to do that, to be that type of aggressive defender. I mean, he doesn't have Harkless is longer than Collier, but Isaiah certainly has that strong body and that bulldog type of body that he can be up and aggressive with guys. He's never going to be the defender that Elijah is, but he can certainly be more aggressive than he was this past season with the Jazz and going into future seasons. I mean, the Jazz have been so porous defensively. I mean, they're at the bottom of the NBA, and Isaiah is one of those guys that can certainly offer a better defensive effort than what we've seen in the past. And I would like him to do that, specifically him, because I think he has the ability to do that. But getting back to Harkless, I mean, he actually had a decent game tonight. I mean, he went for 3 for 8 from 3, 4 for 9 overall. The 6 rebounds, that's a good number for somebody his size, and a couple of steals and a couple of blocks. So 11 points. I mean, that's a good outing for Harkless in a summer league game, and he didn't play that many minutes. I mean, 23 minutes. So he played well, and his defense is as advertised. Like, he's really aggressive and a really good perimeter defender. And Cody. So let's go on to Cody. And this is kind of the fear coming into Summer League, that Cody was going to, he had those first 2 games that were so much improved. But this third game, he reverted back to where he was last season somewhat. So he shot the ball very poorly. He got picked on that one instance that I was telling you about, completely picked clean when he was dribbling the ball. He went 1 for 4 on 3, and he had no free throws. He had 0 rebounds in 24 minutes of play. 0. He had 2 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block, and then two turnovers. So again, he had 2 games that certainly showed promise and were certainly better than how he performed this past season with the Jazz, and certainly as well, he didn't perform well in this past summer league either. But this game, he kind of reverted back to that form. So it'll be really interesting to see what he does in Las Vegas. And I hope that he has a bounce-back game, that first game that he plays in Vegas, so that he can gain some confidence, so he doesn't have a string of bad games. Because if he starts putting together, successive poor games, I worry about that for just like the long, how he plays overall in Summer League, because I think it would help Cody immensely if he left Summer League on a positive note with having significantly more good games than he does bad games. So right now he's sitting at 2 decent games, 1 decent game, 1 good game, and then this bad game. So I just hope that he can bounce back with that first game in Summer League and rectify the situation. Well, let's move on to Kyle. Kyle shot the ball reasonably well again, 5 for 12 from the field, and 2 for 6 from 3 again. So he's shooting the ball reasonably well. And another positive aspect of this is, like I've said previously, that first Summer League game, he went 4 for 4 from the free throw line. The second Summer League game, he went 3 for 4 from the free throw line. This game, he went 6 for 7 from the free throw line. So that's a vast improvement so far in just free throw shooting alone. And that was a huge sore spot with Kyle last season. Like, he just was a brutally poor free throw shooter. And this shows promise. Now, those rims at the Huntsman Center, I think those rims are loose compared to what you find in the NBA. So that certainly can be contributing to it, because, Kyle is hitting the front of the rim on some of these shots. And I'm not sure all those shots are going to go in an NBA arena, because those rims at the Huntsman Center in Summer League, it's like every time somebody's shooting the ball, it's like clank, clank, clank. It just sounds like they're very loose compared to how the rims are in most, pretty much every NBA arena. They seem like they're a lot tighter in the NBA arenas. So that might contribute to the improved free throw shooting numbers. There might be one or two of those that may have not gone in an NBA arena. That's my theory on it, because those rims, they just sound very loose. So I don't know if that's the case, but they certainly sound it. But anyway, Kyle dominated on the rebounding tonight. I mean, he was impressive. He started out the game getting a bunch of offensive rebounds, and he ended up with 7 and then 8 defensive rebounds, 15 rebounds overall. I mean, those are fantastic numbers. I mean, he played 24 minutes at center, and he's getting 15 rebounds. I mean, it was great. And he passed the ball better tonight from an assist standpoint. He had a steal, and he had a couple of block shots too, which was really nice for Kyle, because let's face it, Kyle Filipowski is not really a shot blocker, but he had 2 nice blocks tonight. Now, the downside for Kyle is he had 7 turnovers. That's a lot of turnovers. And but that happens in Summer League. So let's not pretend that it doesn't. The Jazz had major league turnovers in that last game with 25, and they had a whole bunch of turnovers in this one too. I think they finished with 23, or 22 or 23. So that's a lot of turnovers in a 40-minute game. And Kyle was certainly a contributing factor to that. So we'll see. We'll see if he can cut down on his turnovers. But overall, aside from those turnovers, Kyle was I would say that Kyle was the dominant player for the Jazz today. Even though he wasn't the high scorer in the game, I thought his performance when he was on the court, I thought he was terrific. He was a +9 for the game, and I thought his play kind of set the tone for how the Jazz are going to play overall, and he was the main focus of that. And I thought he was great. It's just those 7 turnovers are on the real huge downside for him tonight. So Walt, it was a mixed bag. Those turnovers in the second half where they had that huge lead, and his turnovers directly contributed to him really. That was how Oklahoma City got back into the game. Walt's mistakes were the reason they got back in the game. Now, he made some other big plays, and some of those shots that he made at key times were massive. And let's face it, That's what he's known for. He's known for making big shots at key times, and that's what he did in college. And so I think I don't foresee any reason to believe that won't carry over into his game, especially once he becomes comfortable with playing. I certainly think that he has that big shot mentality and the ability to make those shots in the NBA. But tonight, for all the good things that he did, those turnovers in that second half when the Jazz had a big lead, I mean, that was a brutal stretch. But, to his credit, he came back in and finished the game reasonably well. And so he didn't let it get him down. He tried to just play through it, which is what you need to do. If you make mistakes, and those were some bad mistakes that he made, you just got to play through it, especially, as a rookie player in Summer League. And I was happy to see him fight through it and be a contributing player down the stretch. And let's face it, he still did score 20 points. The 5 for 14 from the field, not a great field goal percentage, but he made 40% of his threes, going 4 for 10. And he made all of his free throws tonight, and he's a great foul shooter. At least he was in college. So the 4 assists, 3 turnovers, 1 steal, 1 block, and 20 points. Overall is a decent night. Wasn't a great night though because of those turnovers. So we'll leave it at that, and we'll see how he plays in Vegas. He's one of the guys that I am looking forward to seeing play in Vegas and see how he does there. On that stage, because that's obviously a bigger stage than the Salt Lake Summer League, with all 30 teams being represented in Vegas, and certainly more of a focus on those games, with all the NBA guys in Vegas for those games. It's a big event, so we'll see how he does. We already talked about Isaiah, and the nice thing that Isaiah did do tonight, though, obviously he didn't shoot the ball well, 3 for 11 from the field, but he did lead he led the team in assists, which was really good, and so he kind of made amends for all those issues that he had yesterday and being benched yesterday. So. I think this is a really nice bounce back game for him overall. Even though he didn't shoot well, the 6 assists against 3 turnovers, I think that's a really nice bounce back game. And he was also, his time on the court, he's a +9, so he scores 8 points, +9 during his nearly 30 minutes. I mean, he had game high minutes. So I think the coaches wanted to put him into a situation where he could kind of, make up for what happened yesterday and feel better about how things ended up in the Salt Lake Summer League going into Vegas, and I think he certainly did that. So I'm not going to really talk about anybody else. Jaden Springer, I thought, actually had a good game too, briefly, because he had 4 steals in this game, and he's also another good perimeter defender, and he is very strong and he is athletic, and he played a nice game in his 17 minutes of play. 4 for 8 from the field, 9 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 steals. I mean, nice numbers, really good numbers, and he made a couple of nice mid-range shots that were impressive. I mean, it's really impressive. So he had a decent game. But those are my thoughts. Those are my observations of watching the final game of Salt Lake Summer League, and we'll see what happens in Las Vegas. I mean, it should be interesting. I don't anticipate Bryce playing, but I assume that Ace plays some of those games. I doubt that he plays all of those games that they have in Vegas, but I assume he plays some. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with the play of the guys, And are some of these other guys who haven't played yet going to play? That's another thing too. I mean, still they signed RJ to a 2-way contract, and he has yet to get any time. So is he going to play? We'll see. And also, we have the John Tonje. I mean, is he going to be ready to play in Las Vegas? We assume he will. We assume he will, but, I haven't really heard anything, so I don't know. But it'll be interesting. Nonetheless, it'll be interesting. And let's see what happens. So anyway, I'm going to sign off, and I hope that everybody has a good time watching the games coming up in Las Vegas. Talk to you later.